We let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And, hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
Yeah, and obviously with the cars, all foreign-made cars, imports, are getting a 25% tariff starting at midnight. If half the cars coming into the United States are foreign-made, that's hard to turn around overnight, as you know. So what would you say to people in the auto industry who are worried about that timeline and how quickly that can shift?
Buy American.
And what about American-made cars and produced cars that are being made using foreign-made parts?
Well, I believe the USMCA is exempt.
Yeah, those that are compliant with this. Obviously,
yes.
Canada and Mexico are not on here. A lot of these are our closest allies.
Trump is making a concerted effort to create an incentive structure. Show me the incentive, and I'll show you the outcome. If the incentive is made in America, buy in America, manufacture in America, produce it in America, and you making it expensive for someone to do anything else, the incentive is, hey, you want access to our market at a competitive rate? Yeah, come in. And this is the idea, like, libertarians are striking back, and, I understand where they're coming from. Free market inside of the country is fine, but when it comes to global trade, I don't understand how they can defend Japan, the EU, doing all these lopsided kind of not trade wars, but taxes on exports from our companies, yet we're allowing them to freely do anything they want inside our country. That don't make any sense. I don't think that's fair if we were talking about fair trade. That don't sound very fair to me, where we're paying 200% tariffs on something, right? Japan won't even let you buy import rice into their country. When it comes to this globalist kind of narrative, and the stock markets took a hit, but this kind of legitimately proved more that the Democratic Party are the party of the billionaires. Friendly reminder that a vast majority of billionaires support the Democratic Party, right? And this is why I think the Democrats are freaking out over the fact that the stock market is tanking, right? The billionaires ain't winning no more. And I got a couple of clips that I want to show you, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. But Trump is highlighting a problem during his speech. I think I'm going to play a little bit of it here, and then I'll show you some reactions of other people.
In Sleepy Joe Biden's last year in office, the United States hemorrhaged 100,000 manufacturing jobs, and the number was going through the roof at levels never seen before. And our trade deficit reached a record $1.2 trillion, which is unheard of. Since the beginning of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, it was a horror show. I was able to terminate it. They all said you'd never be able to get it out. We had to get approval from Congress to get it terminated. We had to live with that deal. It was the worst trade deal ever made by far. But since the very beginning of NAFTA, our country lost 90,000 factories. Think of what that is, 90,000. Think about putting a map up and putting tax on it. You wouldn't have enough room. 90,000. I said, is that possible? We had it checked 4 different times, and it was actually somewhat higher than that.
And I want to leave it there because in this clip I'm going to show you, this is how CNN panel reacted to all this stuff. And you only see, like, the Democrat will come here and tell you about the intentions, tell you about a perception that they want you to have. And the panelist, I think her name was Ashley, she'll strike back and tell you the results of what happened.
If this was a president who really cared about empowering workers, he wouldn't have tried to change a rule last time he was president that would have made it easier for managers to take from the tip pools of their servers. This is all a farce, okay? This is to make it look like he's doing things for workers when behind the scenes he's doing what he's always done, which is disempowering workers.
Well, if you want to talk about workers, let's look at the Biden administration and the regulation that would have mandated EV vehicles for all Americans and would have eliminated 144,000 jobs in Michigan and Ohio And I mean, Joe Biden was really the #1 exporter of American jobs. And President Trump is trying to bring those jobs back here. Hold on, let me finish for a second. You know, one of the things, my speculation is we have a $36 trillion deficit, and this is going to bring money back to America. And furthermore, we have 22 companies that have now, at least 22 companies, invest in jobs in the United States. There's 44,000 additional jobs and over $876 billion of investments back into the United States. That's what this is about.
44,000.
Do you have to qualify the understanding based on what we just saw with those 20-plus Nobel winning economists who said, if you do tariffs the wrong way, you wind up spiking prices here that get passed on to the consumer. Yeah. And that was also additive to inflation. And they criticize the Trump administration and its future plan for being at risk of doing exactly that.
Sure. So I know that's a criticism that's been out there. Here's why I don't buy it. So first of all, these are the same experts that said shipping our entire manufacturing industry to China, to East Asia, to Mexico would lead to greater American prosperity. They were wrong. It was a mistake to do that. We followed their advice, and now, frankly, a lot of Americans can't afford a good life, can't earn a middle-class wage because we listened to some of those very same people. But the more immediate reason why I don't buy that argument, Chris, is, look, Donald Trump was already president, right? These aren't just plans and proposals. He was already president, and when he was president, you had he did use tariffs, right? And you had the fastest rising take-home pay in 40 years in this country. You had inflation at 1.5%. So, look, you don't have to agree with everything I say or everything that Donald Trump says, but when you actually look at the policy accomplishments, we had low inflation and rising take-home pay, and I think tariffs were a big part of that.
These economists, right? And I wrote it here. Liberal bias has ruined experts. Experts have ruined their credibility with their bias, right? These same economists that came out and said, oh my God, this will destroy the economy if you do all these trade things. If you look at the results contradict what the expert says. End of the day, if you test your theory in reality and in reality shows you your theory is wrong, economists must accept that the theory is wrong. These same economists was telling us how Joe Biden's economy will bring us back stronger and better than ever. And what was the result over the last 4 years? The experts were wrong. And I don't understand how these experts still feel confident in just laying out, oh yeah, this is going to cause prices to rise. Maybe that's a trade-off worth having, especially if the long-term play is, hey, we don't want to tax any American under $150,000, right? We want to bring more manufacturing jobs back. I don't understand the trade-off these laureates are making. But I digress. I want you to show you this clip, this panel talk with Piers Morgan, debating about the tariffs. And I think the Democrats have thoroughly, in my view, lost this perception that they're the party of the working class. I just showed you, majority of billionaires support the Democratic Party. Democratic Party rose $1.2 billion in a couple of months and still lost an election. All the richest counties in the country support the Democratic Party. This narrative that the Democratic Party is the party of the working class, I think it's collapsing in real time. And I think this debate will highlight that very sharply. Let's take a look.
What I find so frustrating about the conversation around tariffs is that we all agree on the problem. We all agree that the deindustrialization of America led to the downward mobility of the American working class, deaths of despair, people working multiple jobs and not being able to afford the American dream. We all agree that it is deeply unfair for the American middle class to be bearing the burden of unfair tariffs from other countries. We all agree that it is great for the president to have leverage in order to demand reasonable things, like that countries stop allowing fentanyl to murder 100,000 Americans every year, and that Mexico do its part to police its own border. And yet when somebody has the courage to show up and say to Wall Street, screw you, I am waging war. I'm waging class warfare on behalf of the American working class. And you elites in Wall Street, you do what you need to do because I'm not going to stop fighting.
Now, Cenk can shake his head all he wants. But if I were to sit here and ask Cenk, hey, Cenk, you say your Democrats are fighting against Wall Street. You think Democrats are making it hard for Wall Street to rip off the working class? Okay, what are the percentages of people, of hedge fund managers that vote and donate to the Democratic Party? If you counted more than 70%, you're correct. More than like, oh my God. You know what they say? Actions speak louder than words. That's the Democratic Party right there. Their words say we're fighting for the working class. And then the richest and most prosperous counties, large percentages of rich people from tech to the finance bros, but like they vote and donate to the Democratic Party at a 90% clip. And you're sitting here telling me that the Democratic Party is fighting for the working class people. No, the working class people are pawns to the Democratic Party. This is how I see it.
For the American working class, suddenly everybody is sitting around going, oh no, the stock market. Yeah, the stock market looks like that because the rich are punishing Trump for siding with the neglected and humiliated American working class over them. We have already seen these tariffs work, Pierce. The number of people crossing the southern border is at 0. Fentanyl is at record lows for the last 10 years. We have already seen $1.2 trillion in manufacturing invested in this country since January 21st. So they have already worked. Now, how long is Wall Street going to keep trying to punish this president for standing the American working class? I don't know, but I can tell you that the view from the street is people cannot believe that there is a president who is working for them, who is putting them first and telling Wall Street to go screw itself. Wall Street, which picked the Democrats for the last 3 election cycles in a row. That's what the real story is here.
That's a mega leftist for you guys. That's what she, I think that's where she claims herself to be, a MAGA leftist. So it seems like, and I talk about this all the time, that I believe MAGA is essentially a centrist movement. It's a political philosophy that's based in practicality. Hey, let's be practical here. What are our goals? Made in America, America first. Okay. Does this tariff benefit and align with the narrative of America first? Yes, it does. Incentivizing American manufacturing, making America less dependent on foreign countries, right? Forcing foreign countries to give us favorable terms and not these lopsided trade agreements. India already backed down. Mexico already backed down. Israel been stopped putting tariffs on U.S. goods. This is the kind of outcomes that Donald Trump is getting. And the media and the left are out here trying to create all this negative press for what? For what? And this is why Donald Trump's approval ratings is at 50% right now. And Democrats are at 29% favorability right now. But they continue and continue and continue. Pretty much is Donald Trump's world right now. This is how Donald Trump won the popular vote, because people started recognizing, yo, you don't cover a guy 87% of the time negative and think it's objective. Impossible. Well, this is what leftists want to stand on. They vandalizing Teslas, attacking old ladies because they're not getting their way. Because the messaging that I'm getting from the Democratic Party is they're not about providing solutions. They just want to manage problems. They just want to be in control of things. I always joke around, a progressive will call something racist until they control it. These little moralizing or virtue signaling that progressives love to do is merely a tactic to gaslight you into giving up power to them. And once they have the power, then they stop. They're like, okay, yes, you're a good person now. You gave me power. And then they abuse it. Look at Chicago. Look at where all these look at these blue cities. People are fleeing them for a reason.
American Compass did a survey of just GOP voters. We know now that the majority of Americans who make under $100,000 a year now vote for the Republican Party. So that was almost a means-tested poll. And they found that 77% of GOP voters, the working class, not the elites, said that when they were asked, they said they would be willing to pay higher prices if it meant bringing back manufacturing, because of course in their mind they are going to be the beneficiaries of those manufacturing jobs. About Canada, a lot of people are asking, why Canada? We love Canada. Canada are our friends. Why wage this tariff war on Canada? And of course the answer is simple. Canada and Mexico are the back door to the American economy because we have this trade deal with them, the USMCA. So if there are no tariffs on China, if Canada and Mexico do not match our tariffs on China, China simply builds car manufacturing plants in Canada and in Mexico, which they have already done, and they use that in order to get tariff-free cars into the American market, which is exactly what President Trump is trying to get away from. So what he wants from them.
And this is what I want politics to be, right? I'm tired of the sensationalism. You saw the CNN clip, how, they try to play these narratives. I don't care about narratives. Just give me the results. Okay, why your plan is a better plan than this person? Here's the outcomes this person is going to give me. It's just like when you go buy a car. You know that there's trade-offs with every car brand you buy. Hey, I want to get a Honda. I want to get a Nissan. Hey, Nissan have these problems. Look, it's documented Nissan have these problems. I think a better car will be the Honda. Honda's reliable. They're known for their durability. They're relatively cheap, right? These is how policies debates should go, right? These conversations, this is how it should go, right? Now, you still cast your narrative, but end of the day, if the reality don't fit your theory is wrong. And that's always been my philosophy, right? And it seems like the left, they have a hard time moving away from perception type arguments, right? Because at the end of the day, I always say this in this channel, that I believe the left, they make they focus highly on controlling people's perceptions, coloring people's perception, and not actually informing you of reality. This is why they say men can be a woman, because they think that your reality is your perception. Perception is reality. And as a conservative or people with common sense, you know that perception isn't reality. And this is the game that's being played right now in our country.
Is for them to close that back door. And I just want to emphasize again, back in the 70s, when the majority of the GDP in America was in the middle class, right? That's kind of like the golden era that we look back to, of when the economy was really healthy and working class people felt that they could afford a middle class life. 25% of our economy was in manufacturing. Today, the top 10% control over 60% of the GDP. And that is a direct result of the fact that only 10% of our economy is manufacturing. And the largest share, 20%, is in finance and real estate, which is, of course, how other countries we have artificially inflated the dollar, which makes the product of the American worker unaffordable. And so what the tariffs are doing are simply saying we are refusing the race to the bottom in wages. It is unfair to the American worker, which I think we have all basically agreed on at this point.
Shout out to Batia, the MAGA leftist. Shout out to her. Because she made how does the left talk back against that? How, Sway? How does the left push back against that without sounding delusional? And this is what I'm talking about. Democrats are not an alternative. Democrats are not even worth voting for. In this, they want to obstruct Trump. They want to obstruct what Trump is doing with that. Make that make sense. You want to stop Trump? You think tariffs are a bad thing? Why? Because the Democrats are the party of the rich. It's hurting their donors' pockets. And then if it's hurting their donors' pockets, that's less money that the donors can donate to the Democratic Party. Simple. When you think about it from a political motive, when you give these people no kind of moral credibility, you just look at, okay, what are the logical incentives? What self-interest does the Democratic Party have in defending illegal migration coming into the country? Defending the stock market crashing? Defending voter ID, not wanting to vote for voter ID. What is the logical motive? What is the self-interested motive of the Democratic Party? It all comes down to power and control. Why should the voter vote for the Democratic Party where every time they invest money into something, it never becomes anything tangible? What's the motive? I get to funnel money to nonprofit organizations that push left-wing ideology for my political party's long-term future. It's like Democratic Party, they use the working class as pawns. And I think a lot of the working class in America woke up to that. As you saw from the stat that Batia laid out, majority of people making under $100,000 a year, majority of them voted for the Republicans this year in 2024. But progressives will still come in my comment section talking about how Donald Trump is really is anti-working class. But tariffs are popular with the working class. What are you talking about? And you see why you lost a popular vote, Democrat. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comment section below. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.